does appear to be a bewildering issue, and it does appear to be creating conflagration and conflict. The difference between a conversation that might spur ire, that has as its object multinational organizations, energy giants, and may have as its victims the impoverished people of the world enduring a cost of living crisis, and one where there are more evidently individual human beings, given that it's about individual identity. That's the nature of this topic, and there is so much that is confusing about it, and it feels like something that for me has to be, whilst I admire in many ways your a willingness to speak openly and explicitly, I feel that I feel sometimes that it is inflammatory, that the debate becomes inflammatory, and as we transition to speaking about the type of subjects that I concentrate on in my my online work and videos, I feel that the reason I feel more comfortable when criticising, for example, Emmanuel Macron or Justin Trudeau or now Rishi Sunak, is because I feel like I can see that they are using the language of compassion, they are posturing, they are trying to appeal to social ideas around tolerance, while actually behaving in a tyrannical manner and operating at the service of powerful interests. For me, I can see a bullseye very clearly there, and I can see I can attack. And the energy of comedy can be very aggressive and it can be malicious. But even when I'm talking about, say, Justin Trudeau or Rishi Sunak or Joe Biden, I try to remember, child of God, human being. What is my objective? My objective is to awaken as many people as possible, to try to create conversations where people have vastly differing views can connect with one another in a consensual space. And the way that I do, one of the ways that I'm interested in doing that, Jordan, is by identifying what is the problem really. And if we start to look at the...
You knucklehead, man. That's what I'm trying to do. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. What the world? Y'all ain't telling me that Russell Brand was trying to do that. That's what I'm trying to do, bro. I want to awaken people. I want to bring people to a bridge where they're just meeting one another and just shaking hands with people that they never thought they would shake hands with. You know what I mean? They're making lifelong friends with people that they once didn't understand and didn't care to understand, and probably was taught to even hate those people. Wow. I think I like Russell Brand's channel a bit more, just from that point right there, because he's clearly making an attempt to not be the biased far this way or far that way. He wants to be the person that, connects the two. I can rock with that. Absolutely.
Crisis that you've just defined, that you've just outlined, that this winter millions of people in the country I live in, and presumably millions of people throughout the world, are going to be suffering because of inequity. They're going to be suffering because of corruption. They're going to be suffering because of dishonesty. And the only way to end this suffering is if these people are somehow able to find a way to come together. Come together. There are certain areas of opposition that are going to have to be put to one side for now in order that we can focus on what I consider to be the absolute priorities. Where is power? Where is power? And now it's becoming more and more bloody literal. It's not even metaphorical anymore, because we're talking about energy. We're talking about the ability to turn on a light and to heat a home. And it's clear to me, it's becoming clear to me, that power is able to circumnavigate ordinary democratic process, because there are edicts delivered from, whether it's the WB or the IMF or the WEF or the WHO or unelected national bodies. Ordinary people are unable to intervene in the relationships between the state and the corporate world. We've talked a little bit about decentralization, and now I wonder if we can, and in a sense there is an easy elision, in this time of conflict around culture, how can people come together to oppose real power, real corrupt power at the level of the state and the corporation, to make them accountable and to create new models and systems?
Well, I think that one of the things that's happened is that people, ordinary people, let's say, have not fulfilled their civic responsibility in the proper manner. So I think what's happening, Russell, is that we're transforming our society into a literal Tower of Babel. And so a Tower of Babel is an abstract enterprise designed to replace God, to reach to the heavens, to become totalitarian. And its fundamental nature is the aggregation of power and responsibility at the top and the atomization of the citizenry. And that happens when the citizens abandon their intermediary responsibilities. And so in this seminar on Exodus that I just conducted, we talked about the principle of subsidiarity. Now, this is what happens in Exodus, and it's very much worth delving into briefly, if we can do that. So Moses leads these slaves out of Israel. And everyone in the modern world thinks that's a hell of a good idea, because you shouldn't be a slave and you shouldn't be a tyrant. And so we can think of that as a self-evident axiom. In some sense, you should be free. So you have to remove yourself from the tyranny of your own imagination, and you have to remove yourself from the tyranny of state actors. But the problem is, when you remove yourself from tyranny, is you don't get to the promised land. You go to the desert. And that's because everything falls apart around you when you drop your tyrannical presuppositions. And so then you're lost and aimless and fractionated. And so that's the situation that confronts Moses when he leads his people into the desert. They're not free. They're in the desert. They're just wandering aimlessly. And that's the position we're in right now. Now, what happens is that because the Israelites have no tradition of freedom and no internal order, they start fighting amongst themselves. And that's also what happens in the Tower of Babel. When people are too fractionated, they become unable to communicate and they all start speaking a different language. And that's certainly happening at the moment. And so Moses sets himself up as judge to adjudicate all the conflicts that the Israelites find themselves embroiled in the desert. And so now he's sitting from dawn until midnight every day, doing nothing but listening to people fighting. And he does this for years. And then his father-in-law comes along. He's a Midianite priest, so he's the archetype of the ethical outsider, a very common kind of character in the Old and New Testaments, like the Good Samaritan. And Jethro comes to Moses and he says, look, man, you got to stop doing this. And Moses says, why, essentially? And Jethro says, look, there's two reasons. First of all, you're wearing yourself to a frazzle. Nobody can take on that much responsibility and live. And second, you're denying the Israelites their destiny, and basically you're setting yourself up as an alternative Pharaoh in the desert by taking all the responsibility onto yourself. And so then he says, well, they decide, well, what should we do as an alternative? So this is the question is, what's the alternative to tyranny and slavery?
I want to pause this for a second to apologize to you all for not commenting the way that I usually do. You know, stopping it and giving my commentary and response to what he's saying. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I am really trying to learn from what he's communicating. Yes, I do know the story of Moses, and you know what I mean, I get that. But hearing it come from Jordan B. Peterson and the way he's breaking it down with how things are today, and I'm trying to really pay attention to how he ties in the two, you know? So that's why I did not stop it and start running my mouth, because I really am trying to, I don't retain information the way everyone else retains information. Okay. So I'm enjoying this right here and I'm learning from it. Hopefully you are too.
And Jethro tells Moses, divide the Israelites into groups of 10 and have each of the 10 nominate a leader, and then group the leaders together and have them nominate a leader and make an intermediary hierarchy up to tens of thousands, and then allow them to adjudicate their own disputes at the most local level possible. And any disputes that can't be intermediated at those local levels that eventually trickle up to you, you can decide.
So that's like the government. That's like the government. Okay, I'm following along now. Huh? I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
This is a hierarchy of responsibility as an alternative to slavery and tyranny. And it's also the model for the later establishment of religious institutions. And so what do people have to do? They have to find a mate. They have to get married. They have to have a family. They have to engage in civic activity. They have to sit on their school boards. They have to run for local office. They have to join a business organization. They have to join a political party. Because imagine this, every bit of social responsibility you abdicate will be vacuumed up by a narcissistic tyrant. That's what will happen. That's what will happen. Those people are just waiting for that responsibility to be transferred into their power.
Brilliant. What an incredible
Wow.
piece of analysis. Now, I've got questions, Jordan.
Wow.
There's a shock.
Desert Pharaoh. Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing phrase. What an amazing phrase. Now, in this anarcho-syndicalist utopia where there is confederacy and consensus around some universal, inverted commas, principles, but autonomy wherever possible, smallest viable social models, where we're all civically engaged in our communities, where we're running our workplaces, we're running our schools, we're running our communities, we're preventing corporate tyrants, unelected pharaohs, you know, in whatever guise, of whatever hue, entering these spaces and narcissistically hoovering up power. In this model, I believe it might be possible to have a tribe that has extraordinarily particular views on gender and on sexuality and on bodily autonomy, and another tribe that has, for the sake of brevity, very traditional ideas on what a man is, on what a woman is, and how children ought to be raised. And neither of those two tribes need to come into a conflict with one another as long as there are certain universally agreed principles around the autonomy and group authority of those particular tribes. Would that is firstly beautiful piece of analysis on Exodus, and because if it don't matter now, it don't matter at all is basically my axiom. If you can't apply it to right now, then what is its application? And for this, as I've heard you describe it beautifully many times, for this library of books to have succeeded, they must have some deep archetypal power that continues to play out. And in the analysis you just gave us, I see how it plays out. Now, how do we map that onto soothing and solving the cultural war that you have found yourself continually at the forefront of?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, and I said this right when I opposed the initial Canadian legislation, I don't have an issue with a wide range of opinions, let's say, about how people should conduct themselves in their private and their creative lives. And I know that a plethora of alternatives is desirable, partly because the environment shifts and turns and you never know what's going to be useful. I also know that there are, in some sense, as many different so-called gender identities as there are individuals, although I think it's conceptualized in an extremely unsophisticated manner. And I put a lot of the responsibility for that at the feet of dim-witted academics, particularly on the radical left, because they just don't understand what they're talking about. So, people's temperament varies in 5 dimensions.
They're trying their best to appease the young people, though. They are the ones closest to the young people, and they're trying their best to appease the young people. The young people want to live by their own rules, and the young people want to involve everyone. They want to include everyone get a prize. Everyone is, you feel like you're what today? You're a cup. Okay, then so it is, and we will make sure we protect you. And if you call, what's your pronoun? They, them. If you call them anything but a cup, we will press charges, because we stick together in this. And they are really trying to turn things, so they're trying to live in a world that is their own. That's what they want. They want to live in a world that's their own, and they are definitely going to be the ones to directly affect the schools. This is what it is.
Some of those temperamental dimensions are linked fairly tightly to, let's say, moderately tightly to biological sex. And so women tend to be more agreeable, and they tend to be higher in negative emotion. Those are the biggest 2 differences between men and women temperamentally. They also tend to be interested in people versus things. And so, and there's a powerful biological undercurrent to that. But by the same token, there's no shortage of men who have an average feminine temperament, and there's no shortage of women who have an average masculine temperament. It's
an average feminine temperament. That is true. All these emotional daggone men. And the women, all these aggressive, manly women out here. And everybody will say that they have a reason for being what they are now. And they have a reason to complain, and they have a reason to that. And yeah, I am who I am. Call me this. This is what I am now. And nothing about it is traditional whatsoever. But guess what? Y'all know traditions get broken every single day. Every day. And new traditions are created every day. So why are we surprised? That's the part right there. Why are we surprised? I don't know why we're surprised.
probably, it depends on where you put the cutoffs, obviously, but you could easily say that it's 10% on each side. Humans vary widely in their temperamental proclivity, and some of that's biological, genetic, even though it's not linked directly to sex, and some of it's a consequence of socialization. So you could say with some real truth that there are 7 billion different gender identities. But that doesn't mean that there's 7 billion different forms of sexual identity.
What in
Wow. All right. Listen, these two, I gotta read a day. I gotta have a dictionary in front of me. Someone purchased me a dictionary, so please don't. Someone already purchased me a pocket dictionary. I keep that in the truck. I need to keep it in front of me while I'm doing my daggone reaction. So I'm gonna bring it. Because I can't listen. Whenever I take my kid, my baby girl somewhere, and then I'm waiting for her, you know what I mean? I gotta have something to do, right? Unless I'm be recording videos, and I don't want to have to be recording videos all the time, unless I really have a thought. But I really like listening to these gentlemen speak together about real issues, because they communicate in a way that, you know, they're both extremely intelligent, well-versed in politics, understanding of different branches of politics and whatnot, all of the different players, all of the players involved. And when they're speaking on it, I'm a student, just listening. I'm a fly on the wall, just listening. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this, though. If you got anything from it, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and hopefully inside of the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing per usual. Love y'all. Keep doing what you're doing. And kiss somebody in the mouth. All right? All right.